Hello, what's your state? Mine is grounded equals true. Sounds like it's time for another game dev tip. Now everyone knows games are made out of many components. You have the design, the art, the animation, the music, but what all fundamentally ties it together is the programming. That's what makes it all work. Now to outsiders who don't code, even those within the industry, it can sometimes seem like this impenetrable wall, a bunch of maths and symbols and all these kind of things. Now while that can be true, especially on the really technical end of things, there are some fundamental easy ways to get around the basic idea of programming when you're getting started. One of these concepts is state machines. The easiest way to explain a state machine is with an example. Let's start with every indie game developer's favourite first game, a platformer. So you want your character to jump. You press the A button and they jump. That's not enough, is it? There needs to be some rules to when they can jump. One of the most obvious ones in most cases is the player grounded? So then we need to determine if the player is grounded or not by checking if there's a floor beneath the player. And if there is, then is grounded equals true. And if is grounded equals true and input for jump is pressed, then player will jump. That's a basic example. Let's add a touch more complexity. So let's take a wall jump. So to do a wall jump, we need to determine if the player is touching a wall. So we put in a variable called is touching wall, for example. And if is touching wall equals true and input for jump is pressed, then player will do a wall jump. But we need a little bit more than that, because if the player was grounded and touching a wall and then pressed the jump button, they'd do a wall jump from grounded state, which wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't feel right. So then the check needs to be if is grounded equals false and is touching wall equals true and input for jump is true, then wall jump. Okay, then let's just add a tiny bit more complexity. Maybe there are walls that you can't jump off of because it's too stiff, because it's ice, or maybe because it's a hazard and it actually hurts you. So to be able to jump off that wall wouldn't make sense. Okay, I hear you, budding game developer. If you're touching an icy wall or a wall that can hurt you, then you just don't set is touching wall to be true. But what if you need is touching wall to be true for another reason, elsewhere in your code? For example, that you can't move further, or it triggers a certain kind of animation, or there's certain actions you cannot perform when you're touching any kind of wall. Very quickly, what starts out as a very simple action can start to spiral out of control as you don't remember what half of the variables do anymore, and do you even need that variable in your game anymore? If I remove this, will it break it? And if it does, will I even know that that's what caused it to break? Anyway. If you've never made a game before, but you like to imagine making one and you like to imagine concepts for one, you're probably very at this level, high concept. Maybe you're saying, I want to make a game that's all about trying to marry an ox, and you achieve that by riding the ox through a series of difficult platforming challenges. But if you're serious about making a game, and especially if you're going to be doing it with a small team, you're probably going to have to get involved in some of these nitty-gritty aspects. And so a good idea is to start doing some sort of pseudocode theory about how the game would actually work. Practicing the idea of a state machine is one of these ways that you can do it. So for example, you can draw boxes, and in those boxes are the various states of the game that you imagine that you might need. So you might have idle, or moving, or running, or jumping, or dashing, or whatever it is. And in between those states, you might draw lines that connect them, and the various conditions that need to be met to move from one state to another. Now don't forget that many times multiple ones of these states can exist at once. So the way that you visualize this is going to get more and more complex the more in-depth you get, and you will never be able to completely envision all of this on paper without actually making the thing. But it's a good way to start, so maybe try giving it a go. Anyway, boss is calling me, better go.